Interior office bullpen day. We open in a long, dark, dingy bullpen of a drab office. There are no windows. The room is as colorless as the ashen faces of the 24 secretaries sitting within it. In their drab gray and brown uniforms, they busily fold cards and stuff them into envelopes, and seal the envelopes shut by wetting the glue on the top flap with little sponges. The work is mindless and mechanical, and each woman labors with robotic efficiency. 48 hands extend and retract over the stacks of paper on the long metal tables like the legs of some enormous centipede. On Secretary 7, she looks worn, tired, and defeated as she folds. She glances up at a leathery manager who walks down the aisle between tables overseeing the secretary's work. 7 avoids eye contact with her boss, working faster. Grab, fold, stuff. Steal, grab, fold, stuff, seal. Close on the card, the colorful, vibrant flyer shows a happy, pretty, carefree woman in a bikini, clutching a beach ball. It's an ad for a vacation tour of the Caribbean. Block letters read, Escape. For a moment, Secretary 7 is distracted by the colorful art on the flyer, and as she is folding it, Secretary 7, ouch! She flinches and gasps. The other secretaries also flinch at the sound of her crying out, but they don't stop working. On her finger, a paper cut, thin as an eyelash and oozing blood. On Secretary 7, the injury has completely frazzled her. She pops her finger into her mouth and looks up sheepishly at her boss. The manager scowls at her wounded worker, then the manager turns and walks to a first aid kit hanging on the wall. On the finger, moments later, the manager wraps the paper cut in a Band-Aid. Secretary 16. Watching from afar, she also becomes distracted and, oh God! She looks down. She too has given herself a nasty paper cut on the soft fold of flesh between her thumb and index finger. The manager, scowling again, she marches over to Secretary 16. From the first aid kit, she pulls out a roll of gauze. Secretary 7. With her boss distracted, she runs her bandaged fingertip over her lips. The cut seems to have given her a glimmer of secret pleasure and a dreamy moment of respite. The other secretaries, they still work mechanically and robotically, but they steal furtive looks over at their injured sisters. Their once stony faces blossom with amusement and disapproval. Secretary 16. Her hand is wrapped in gauze. She has an impish little smile on her face as she watches blood seep through the cotton. Secretary 21. She exchanges a complicit look with 16, then abruptly stops work. She holds the edge of a flyer against the back of her hand and deliberately pulls, cutting herself. On the manager, she gasps, she freezes. Now she looks frightened. On the secretaries, various shots. Several other secretaries stop work as they accidentally give themselves paper cuts. More and more join in. Secretary 16 makes deliberate paper cuts across her wrists, hacking and slicing with perverted glee. Secretary 21 lets the blood drip from her hands onto the colorful flyer. She finger paints blood across the card. Now all the secretaries are hacking and cutting themselves. Total pandemonium of self-inflicted paper cuts. Cut to black. Interior, office, bullpen the next day. The manager walks up and down her aisle with a smug expression. We see that each of the women now wears gray cotton gloves that match her uniform and protect her hands. Once again, they all work with robotic efficiency. On Secretary 7, with a face devoid of joy or hope, she folds the card slowly but deliberately. She takes a moment to look down at the second card. An advertisement for a cruise ship. A woman in a sundress and sunglasses reclines on a chaise lounge and sips a red tropical cocktail. Large block letters under her read, "Enjoy!" On Secretary 7, she stares at the flyer for a beat, then she folds it neatly. After slipping in the envelope, however, she doesn't use the little sponge. Instead, she licks the glue up and down the triangular fold, taking perverse pleasure in it. On other secretaries, each of the women is distracted by Secretary 7 as she takes another envelope and seals it by running the tip of her tongue lewdly along the glue on the edge, savoring the taste. Work slows to a crawl as they all stare at her. Secretary 7. Aware that she's being watched, she takes a third envelope and this time holds the edge of the paper flap like a razor against the flesh of her tongue, pauses for effect, and she slices. Cut to black.